What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. And as you can see, I already have my guest for tonight with me. We've been having a great conversation behind the scenes here. But before we dig into the hard-hitting questions I have for Fran today, let's hit that beautiful music.
You are listening to the USBN on the DSPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody? Welcome again. Today, I have with me Francisco Hnilo from Buenos Aires. And if his name sounds familiar, that is because he is the artist from the Vitalerium comic book series that I have been reading. Nicholas was on the show not that long ago, I think about a month ago now. And I was like, you know what? Let's have Fran on. Let's talk about the art behind it as well. But we're going to dig into some other stuffs with Fran as well. Fran, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Hey, I'm happy to have you on, man. So real quick, give a quick intro of yourself and kind of like what else you work on. You don't just do comic books, you do other things.
Yeah, I've actually studied filmmaking I wanted to be a film director when I was a kid. So those two things, drawing comic books and directing films, were two things that were running parallel to each other during pretty much my whole life until I sort of dropped the whole filmmaking thing. But I got to be in contact with other filmmakers and stuff, so I got to work as a storyboard artist and a poster artist for films and for series. I worked at a graphic design place for a couple of years, making designs for Netflix and AMC.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I got to learn a lot about, those sort of compositions.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see, they were useful later on for comic book covers and all that stuff, which are not that different from what you see in your local.
It's really not. I mean, if you've seen the behind the scenes on how movies are made, they have these huge storyboards.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks just like comic book panels.
Exactly. And they are very similar.
I imagine that transition was pretty easy for you from
doing
that to only you're scaling it down.
Yeah, and crazy. The craziest thing is that I got to learn more about a bit more about how to make comic books through filmmaking and vice versa, because there are rules to how you tell stories and where to place the camera and a certain 180 degree angle thing when it comes to camera placement, so that the spectator, the audience, knows what's happening where. All that stuff, it's helped me become a better comic book artist, a better storyteller in general, which is what I've always wanted to do. So storyboards, comic books, films, all that stuff, they tell stories. I love telling stories in a visual.
I don't know how many people have actually got to look at, I know I shared some of your artwork when I talked to Nick on the comic book, and like the art is terrific in it.
Thank you.
And then I'm trying to remember the name of the colorist.
Chandran Ponusami. He's from India. which is
But she lives in Egypt, correct? From India, but lives in Egypt.
I'm not sure where he's in, right? I think he's from India, but other than that,
Perfect colorist, like really good colorist.
spectacular. Probably one of the best I've gotten to collaborate with.
Mm-hmm.
I've let him know about it on more than one occasion. I'm very
Yeah,
fortunate.
no, he's very good, especially in issue 2. It's a little bit more noticeable how good he
Yeah,
lays colors down on top
yeah,
of colors and the way he layers everything. And granted, a lot of that is set up by you in the artwork that you do.
yeah. I did throw him a few curveballs there because I messed up some stuff. Like I left a
Yeah.
few grays there that we couldn't, remove, and there was stuff that was made in pencil style that it wasn't easy uh, to color, and he welcomed the challenge and he was excited by it, and I think it
Mhm.
shows. I think it shows. I'm very
No,
happy with how issue 2 turned out.
issue 2 turned out really well. I was absolutely, I love the cover. Like the cover of issue 2 was phenomenal.
Thank
And
you.
I love the mask that he does, that you do, like his mask that
Oh,
he, like, I
yeah,
that's probably one of my favorite things about,
it's
like, it's amazing.
it's painful to draw for more than one page, and you will see in the next issue I will have to draw that for pretty much half the book. So I've already started yesterday with that. I'm already sort of kicking myself because
It is very detailed. It is very detailed, but that's one of my favorite parts.
well,
It really is. The whole exoskeleton suit is just like phenomenal, but that mask is what sets it really apart.
it paid off then.
Dude, definitely. That extra time you put into that alone, it paid dividends. It's amazing to look at. So let's start like from the beginning. Like, how did you get in contact? Like, how did Nick go about getting a hold of you, and how has that relationship been with working on this book, the comic book?
Well, we actually were introduced to each other through, through an Instagram DM by a fellow, by a friend of ours. Actually, a guy who I got to work with, like in 2017 or something. We had tried to make. We had started a project for a comic book page
Mm-hmm.
that would a website, right? That would host comic books and all that. That ended up not flying, but I did end up drawing like 3 or 4 issues of a comic book there, and this
Okay.
guy was the editor. It seems he was impressed enough by it that so many years later, because it was 2023 or something like that, by the time that he reached out, told me, I got a friend of mine who's got this sci-fi project. I think it would be perfect for it. Do you want me to put you two in contact? And that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's how we got to. I got to know Nick, and it's been amazing. He's the most collaborative writer.
Yeah.
He got like well, you talked to him the other day. He's very clear. He's built this whole world, and he's very clear about it, but he's not overly like precious about it in the sense that he gives you the basic structure and he lets you play on it, and
Mm-hmm.
he's very open to new ideas and new stuff. For instance, the helmet that you liked so much, that was something I came up with on the spot, and he liked it as it was.
Dude,
Uh,
I'm telling everybody that's going to listen to this later, if you can look at the cover for issue 2, the exoskeleton suit, the motorcycle thing that he rides,
yeah, the
it
hover
is
bike.
very, yeah, the hover bikes, yes. They are very detailed, very, especially the suit and the helmet. It's phenomenal. And that issue 2 cover, like the moment I seen it, I was like, Fran, he went above and beyond on this cover. Like you
Oh.
didn't have to go that hard on that cover.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that cover too. There's few things around along my career that I'm very happy about. That cover is one of them.
As it should be. That cover was phenomenal.
And I think, or I hope, I've set up high expectations for myself when it comes to Vitalerium to sort of have each issue sort of improve upon the previous one and go farther than the previous one did. So I'm hoping the next issue will be, as a whole, one of those
Yeah.
things I will be proud of for years to come.
Oh no, dude, you should be even starting at issue 1. It's phenomenal. The art's amazing. The colors, the story, it's everything matches the way it should. It tells the story. Like I loved issue 2 because we got to know Roman a little bit more
Yeah.
about his vices, and really it gives you that first breadcrumb of what the whole entire book is about.
Yeah.
So it's really good in that respect. So no, you have every right. And dude, that's when I'd be like, I drew this, you know. But so when you first read the concept for Vitalerium, like what popped into your head, like from an art perspective? Like how did you see everything? I know Nick is very detail oriented, and I'm sure he gave you a lot of that, but a lot of that also is on you on how you layer things and how you draw things. So what was your first, like, what was the first thing that came to mind when you got this initial script for the first comic book?
Well, when I read the first comic book, I sort of started looking for references of similar comics and stuff, sort of in the in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
You know? And there was this comic book drawn by Nick Klein, who's a fantastic artist. He's working on the Incredible Hulk right now.
Okay.
And there was this book he made for Image named Drifter, and that ended up being very much inspirational of what the world of Vitalerium looked like on issue 1.
Okay.
Later on, as Nick told me, well, I want to lean more into the cyberpunk feel of it. I started pulling from other references. There's this book by Libermejo named the something circle.
Is it the one that Nick's currently rereading right now?
No, wait. How. A Vicious Circle. A Vicious Circle is a book by Libermejo and Matt Santomoli. And I'm a huge fan of Libermejo's artwork.
Okay.
And I ended up pulling from there. Blade Runner, once he said cyberpunk, the gates opened up, and it was, all right, I can go harder on this.
And you did. It, like, I know I'm going to keep coming back to the helmet because I absolutely love the helmet. Like, was that just you off the top of your head, or what was your inspiration with that helmet? Because it's very cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Very almost like Marvel, how their helmets like fold up and everything.
I definitely wanted it to be something that you could think was sort of folding on itself and not this sort of nanotechnology you see in the MCU nowadays. Where you could think, okay, this can somehow fit in smaller space when folded up. For the look of it, I sort of drew inspiration. I don't remember who the artist was.
Tron. That's why it gives Tron vibes.
Yeah, it gives Tron vibes. And there was also an artist. I don't remember his name, sadly, but I remember seeing he had a helmet design that was all like one huge, like a fish helmet, like just all black glass. And I thought, this looks cool, but I want to sort of
what's his name? Manta from DC.
Sort of, but not that huge.
Yeah,
More
not
like
as
an
big.
actual
Yeah.
helmet, right?
Yep.
And I loved that thing where you couldn't figure out where the eyes were and where the mouth was or where the nose was, and it was
No,
this
it's
blank thing.
yeah. No,
Uh,
you
I
focus
thought,
on that
okay,
one.
this guy Roman is sort of an assassin, bounty hunter.
Hmm.
You want him to look menacing, even if he's sort of, as you read issue two, he's got a lot of vices and he's far from perfect. He's got that helmet on. He's menacing as fuck. You can't tell. You
Yeah.
can't tell what's going on
He
behind.
also has a lot of and I told Nick during when I talked to him on the cover of the book, which I know you have, it gives very strong Assassin's Creed vibes as well.
Yeah, and um that was very much something that Nick was sort of suggesting
Yeah,
in
I know
terms of the
he's a
pose and
big fan.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how aware he was of the Assassin's Creed vibes necessarily,
Well,
but
if you look at the front of the cover, the way the hood is, he has the hood on, and he's
yeah,
just kind of standing there looking out. That's
yeah,
where I was like, oh, dude, it looks like Assassin's Creed video game cover
yeah,
almost.
yeah. I don't know how
So
aware he was or how unconscious that was, how subconscious that was from him, but it definitely has that. You hit it right on the spot. It's got
yeah,
that vibe.
it's like, and I'm telling everybody out there that's going to listen later, it's like Assassin's Creed, Cyberpunk, Blade Runner had a beautiful baby boy, and his name is Roman, and he's the main character of this series.
Yeah,
It's absolutely the world itself. I know he's got a 40 plus page, Excel Word document on just everything about this book, about this world that he has built, and you are the one who brings it to life.
yeah.
So
I'm actually not fully aware of everything he's got planned. I mean, I've got the book here. He sent it over all the way to Argentina, so that was a long trip. Uh, Left a note here and everything, which I'm very
that's
grateful.
really
I don't
cool.
think I thanked him about the note on the first page. Now I come to think of it, but it was a nice gesture,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
crazy
he
that
sent
I read
me
it.
over he sent me over issue one, and I was just like, dude, this is really awesome to have.
Yeah,
It to
yeah,
me, that's you know, I love the smell of a brand new comic book
yeah,
or a
yeah.
brand new book in general. The smell of the pages.
And it's a different thing having it on your hand, sort of flipping through it.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of that. I
And
really
it's
love
it's one thing to read it digitally, and I've read a lot of books here lately digitally, but it's just something, just that
to hold it.
to
Yeah,
hold it, the smell, the way the paper feels, everything about it just feels amazing.
yeah. Every time I can, I try to sort of buy the most prestige format of the books I like.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate collection, all that, because the holding the object has that special feel to it, right?
Yep. Yep. So walk us through like your process. Do you start with thumbnails? Do you do digital roughs, or are you traditional like paper and pencil? I know
I
everybody's kind of different, but and I know a lot of it's digital now. How
Yeah.
do you like to do it?
Well, when it comes to the thumbnail process, sort of the initial sketches as I'm reading the script, I like to work on pencil on paper, just rough stuff. And lately, for this next issue, consider this sort of
A little teaser, little teaser.
a little teaser. Yeah, I printed out these smaller size pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the limits of the page and the sort of the aspect ratio of the page and sort of where I can go and where I cannot, where the bleeds are. So I start drawing as I read the script, right? I do this, then I scan it and I show it to Nick for his approval. This one he approved on the spot. No revisions, no notes, which was amazing.
Especially
He
as
rarely has any notes, but he this time he had zero notes whatsoever, which was it's a crazy episode. This one that's coming, so
I told him at the end of issue 2, I was like I was literally like, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm kind of leaned into it, and I'm like scrolling through it, and I'm at the, I got my seat pushed all the way back and I'm really leaning into it. I'm like, dude, we got that first breadcrumb, which I'm in that part of the book, I've passed it already. I kind of know where we're going.
right.
But it was just like, but seeing it visually, you're like, oh, that, because you at that point you can kind of like, oh, I know about where I am in the book with this one. So I was like, yeah.
Well, here's sort of a funny thing about this next issue. It's actually sort of a prequel. It's issue 0 instead of
0. Yep.
And so it got some. I like to say it's sort of like a mix between Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Lovecraft. It's got that cosmic horror thing going on in the background. It's right in the sweet spot of the sort of thing that I like. I love this sort of thing. So
you just really Lovecraft and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah.
So, and sci-fi on top. So it got all the elements that I love. So I'm really, really hyped and really hopeful that this one turns out exactly as I imagined. So I make these little thumbnails, which these ones, because I was so excited about, took forever. Then I scan them, turn it and go to the make a Photoshop file and start making them the digital inks.
Okay.
For which oftentimes I will take reference photos, which are actually, I set my phone wherever on a tripod and take pictures of myself in different poses. My girlfriend will laugh at me as I'm doing it. Sometimes she will sort of photobomb them, and
no, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So there's a folder in my computer somewhere where I'm
you know where it is.
These goofy poses, and then I start drawing, and each page takes somewhere around 10 to 16 hours a page. Because I also do the lettering, which I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I know that's part of that's like one of the last things that gets done usually.
Yeah, well, in this case, since I'm the artist myself, I do this weird thing where I place sort of the reference pictures I've taken on the page, and then I place the speech bubbles or speech balloons before I start thinking, because that way I know where I have to add extra detail, where I have to move the artwork. It's a sort of a something that usually letterers don't have, which is that opportunity to set the lettering wherever they please, and then have the artwork coming later. So I bought a book on lettering to sort of learn, but I read, I think, 10 pages and haven't had the time to keep studying it.
No, you're doing it right. I mean, I know me and Nick had this conversation as well. Lettering can make or break a story, because if it's too much, or if it eats too much of a panel, you kind of lose, like, oh yeah, I see the words, but where's the visual that kind of goes with it? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And you're doing it just fine, man.
Yeah,
like, I was telling him, I've seen professional comic books from Marvel and from DC that are just, it looked like the letters were threw up over the page, and it's like, really? Like, come on.
As I started lettering my own stuff, I've started to be more understanding of letterers, because it's hard without the artwork already set in. It's hard already, but once you are delivered a page that's fully colored, fully drawn, and you have to place the balloons there. Yeah, I no, thank you. I'd rather Stay at the beginning of the queue and leave the letter
Yeah,
do his thing however he
dude,
can.
that's why, like, when I first started doing my comic book shows, I wouldn't include the letter. I wouldn't include like the people who did the colors. I was just like the basic, hey, here's the guy who draws it. Here's the guy that did the
Right.
cover. Here's the writer. And then it was Erica Schultz actually who does Rat City. She does X-23. She's doing the new Daredevil, the Red
Oh,
Band series. And she actually shot me a message and was like, hey, there's other people that work on these books. Can you start including them? And I was like, yeah, I mean, if unless I run out of characters, then I can't. But she was the one's like, hey, these people work just as hard as we do writing and coloring and drawing. Do you think you could include them? And I was like, not a problem. You know, I was like, the only reason I wasn't doing it was because character space. And so I took out what
right.
some of the stuff, like I would give a little like review at the bottom. So I stopped really doing the reviews at the bottom. That way I could actually give credit to everybody associated with the book because I think that means a lot more. So, but no, I have all the mad respect for them in the world because they make or break a comic book
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I know
Same with
we've kind of hit this one before, but are there any specific characters or scenes or sequences that were either especially fun or kind of like really hard for you to illustrate, whether it
uh
was book one or book two?
well uh I think on book one I really love drawing Darley, the
Okay.
the the sort of gang gang boss with the
Yeah, he was with the
mohawk.
mohawk. Yeah.
I really have fun drawing him. It was hard to draw him on consecutive pages because of all the tattoos, but I had a lot of fun with it because I could go sort of over the top with the performance of the character.
I mean, he
Uh,
didn't just have tattoos. He also had the some of the cyber, and
yeah,
then he had to
exactly.
draw in missing a finger as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, the action scene on issue one was also super fun to do. Not There's people who like to only draw the action scene on their comic books. I sort of like drawing a bit of everything, and action scenes I struggle to make. Um, I like to try to make them feel as dynamic as possible, and sometimes I feel like I'm not up there. So I was really happy with how it turned out. It was both challenging and fun to make.
Mm-hmm. No,
Uh,
it turned out well. That was one of my favorite scenes, like because that really gave you your first hint of like, oh, Roman's a badass.
right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I wanted to make to actually show that, and that it since it had been like 10 pages up to that point to actually pay off, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it turned out well. And the fact they got to draw a very gory action scene was also very
Yeah, no,
well.
that was really cool. That was one of my favorite scenes in book one was when he literally was just like, "I'll shoot your finger off and make you eat it." I was like, "Dude, that's cold." And then he did it.
And then on issue two, I think my favorite thing, because I got to experiment a bit, and I'm doing sort of experimenting with the artwork again on issue zero,
Mm-hmm.
is the dream sequence, the flashback sequence,
Okay.
because I got to sort of imitate, as far as I'm capable of, uh, another artist's style, which is Riccardo Federici. He's an Italian artist. He's
Okay.
incredible. Now I'm nowhere near as good as he is, but he's got a pencil work that's just fantastic. So I got to sort of imitate that style.
I, we were discussing this before we went live, and we were talking about some of the other artists from Italy. There's a bunch of them, Spain,
Yeah,
the UK. So many artists out there that are currently like doing Marvel, DC, Image, they're all from Europe. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of them are, and that's why I have like if you watch one of my comic book episodes, I struggle to read some people's names because I'm like, am I supposed to be putting like some Italian accent on here? Like, what am I? Is it Spanish? And I'm like, I'm trying so hard, and I've always feel bad because I can't pronounce them for shit, and I try so hard to, but. And
Well,
naturally you go back and you Google and you're like, oh, okay, they're okay. And I try to do that a lot more now that as I've gotten further along into this, if I see a name and I'm like, okay, let me Google to see kind of how I'm supposed to say this name. And then I'll try to imitate that for a couple of minutes before. But like I got a whole episode where it's like every comic book I'm talking about is like, shit, I'm about to butcher somebody else's name.
yeah. Well, but you tried. That's the main thing.
And no,
right?
I will always try. And their art is so good, and their writing is so good. I think her name is Sonia Matis, and I think she's Spanish as well. But her art and her writing is so good.
I'll have to check it out. So, well, I'll check it out later because
Yeah, it's
but
so like when you pass your work off to your colorists, and like how much do y'all talk yourselves? Like, are y'all like constantly back and forth, like, or do you kind of give him a hint of like, hey, like these colors here? I know Nick is very much involved in it as well, but
well,
how
Nick
much are you doing?
Yeah, Nick is very much involved in it, and he's also left. He usually leaves some color cues, color indication
Okay.
on the script. But other stuff is up to to Chandran, and whenever he sort of stays, whenever he does something too crazy, he's usually right on the spot. Like
Yeah.
he usually hits the target perfectly, but every now and then there may be a few changes. So he sends a preview to us
Okay.
before he actually delivers the actual high resolution page. And then if any changes are necessary, usually it's Nick who will ask for them. Um, because I usually enjoy Chandran's coloring as it is. I think he
Yeah.
elevates the artwork.
No, I enjoy
Every
his
time.
color, and especially when it comes to like the suit and the scene in the bar in
Yeah.
ASU1. I thought the color, it was just like, it was gritty, it was dirty. There was just that right amount of pops of color. It was fantastic.
And on issue 2, there was something that I didn't give him any indications whatsoever. The last scene, I wanted to sort of be lead. Do you remember that scene in the? I think it was Skyfall, James Bond Skyfall.
Yeah.
There's this scene where they are fighting, and it's backlit by a neon sign, or I don't know what LED sign. And I wanted to sort of give that scene that feel where you got this light source that's constantly moving around.
Yeah, no, like even like the server farm in there,
Exactly.
the backlights, everything, the way it looks like it's actually lit up on the paper is fantastic.
And I didn't tell him anything. I just drew it and I sent it over and said, well, let's hope he gets.
Yeah, no, he nailed that. The colors on those pages are absolutely amazing.
Yeah. My jaw was on the floor.
Like, and it's really cool because it really looks like, especially if you like me, I just read the digital version of it. I haven't seen the hard copy yet. I'm going to order it, but it literally looks like on the screen like it's actually lit up. Yeah. Like the lights and everything look like they're flickering. It's really something. He does such a great job.
Yeah, I actually met him. Like Chandran came into the team because I introduced him to Nick, and Chandran had collaborated with me on that previous project with that other guy who sort of introduced Nick and myself. And back then, this was almost 10 years ago, right? A little less, but
Yeah.
almost 10 years ago. And he had blown my mind even back then. And I knew this was the guy I wanted to color my artwork moving forward, because he actually elevated. There's stuff where I drew and I was like sort of and he actually saved the artwork on
Yeah.
more than one occasion.
Colorists, man, they're phenomenal. The way they can, like, the art builds the initial layers, but really when the
Yeah,
color comes in on top of the art, it adds those additional layers, and you get to see everything
exactly.
kind of come together. Is phenomenal the way.
And there's stuff that even I didn't notice when I was drawing, and it was like, how didn't I pick up that I had drawn these, the perspective wrong right here or whatever, and I didn't notice them without the colors. And the moment he colors them, it's not noticeable. But for me, who had drawn it, I notice it, and
Yeah.
it makes that much of a difference. Even for the one who made it, who
Yeah.
drew it, it shows things that were hidden.
But that's
Uh,
good collaboration between everybody too. And is you noticing it and like, hey, I need to fix this, and then send it
yeah,
back real quick.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
I mean, it's cool that y'all have that type of relationship. I know, like, he could have, you could have just left it, or he could have just left it alone, and we as readers wouldn't have noticed it.
right. Yeah,
But just
exactly.
keeping it professional, keeping it the collaboration, and making sure that you're putting your best product out there, and that's admirable and respectable. So
That's the spirit of what we're doing. We're giving it all on Vitalerium, and as a general sort of a rule of thumb, I try to give it all with everything that I
mhm.
draw, because you never know, you know, like this guy who introduced Nick and myself. That project was absolutely. I was doing it for free. I was living with my parents. Uh, I have no source of income. I think I was like 18 or 20 years old, like,
Mhm.
and so but I was giving it my all anyway, because I didn't know what might happen. So lo and behold, over about 10 years later, there I was. Here. I mean, here I am. I got to work with Nick on this new project. I'm super excited about it, and it was thanks to that other project in which I gave it my all.
No, it shows, and like I said, the art is terrific in this book. Like, I mean, I'll praise art, but the way everything comes together with, I know it's Nick's words, your art, and his colors, everything just fits so well together, and y'all put together such a great book, and I'm hoping to get my whole little collection on it. uh, I know we mentioned some a little bit earlier. Do you have any favorite, like, software or brushes or pencils that you like to use when you're doing your art, or are you just like oh, here's my pencil?
Well,
Every artist is different. They're some are very picky and will only use certain types, and then I've seen some that are just like a pencil's a pencil.
right. Um, yeah, I'm sort of that kind of artist where a pencil is a pencil. I
Hmm.
usually work if I'm working on pencil. Uh, it's usually an HB pencil, which is sort of medium. It's not too soft. It's not too hard. And then for digital, I bought a Cintiq about 2 years ago, so I'm working on that.
Okay.
And on Photoshop, I'm more comfortable on Photoshop because I got all these tricks that I can work on. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten truly used to using stuff like Clip Studio, though I did work on Clip Studio for a while, but I didn't quite click with it. And I got an iPad with Procreate too, but I haven't clicked with it either. There's stuff that
Okay.
I like, for instance, the dream sequence on issue 2 on I drew on Procreate.
Okay. Yeah. Now
Uh,
that was a good one, actually.
yeah, and
I
it
like that
shows
theme.
because Procreate allows you to do some stuff that Photoshop doesn't, but then Photoshop
Hmm.
has a few tricks uh, and stuff that you can do that I feel more comfortable with, and I think it adds versatility to my toolbox, right?
Yeah. Okay. No, it was one of those. I know everybody's a little different. I know some people who absolutely won't use any type of digital whatsoever. They just
Right. Yeah.
prefer their pencils and their inks and their, color pencils and magic markers. And
Yeah. Yeah. I have huge respect for them because every time you're asked for a change or whatever, that
you
often
got to
means
redo the whole page.
exactly, or at least a huge part of a page.
Hmm.
It means, yeah, starting from scratch. And I tried that once. It took forever. So yeah, I've been
So,
fully digital for a while now.
okay. So I know you're working on Vitalerium. Are you working on anything else in the background, or are you just purely focused on?
Well, yeah, I did finish a comic book pitch about a month ago, or a little before I started working on issue two.
Okay.
And it's a sort of historical fiction thing. Um, it's got the Roosevelt family on it. It's a really crazy project with a different writer, totally different feel, totally different aesthetic, art style from
Hmm.
Vitalirium. I'm really excited about. I think the writer is going to start shopping it to different publishers in the next
Okay.
few weeks. So we will see what comes from it. Um, but I'm really excited about that one. It's got a completely different flavor. um, More of
So,
a it's more of a conspiracy thriller with fantasy
okay.
elements.
So do you ever find like you accidentally like bleeding your art styles into one or the other?
Uh,
Like,
well,
oh
yeah,
wait, that's for this other book over here, or like, oh damn, you know,
I
because I know
think,
you said it's two different art styles, but do you ever
yeah,
catch yourself like, oh shit, I kind of am using.
no, not so far. It may happen eventually, though, but not so far. I did some of the stuff that I learned with this other project. I used for issue two of Vitalerium, which came right after, right?
Hmm.
So some of the stuff I learned there, for instance, for the dream sequence on issue two of Vitalirium, that came from what I learned through the test pages I made for that other comic
Okay.
book.
No,
So it was
that dream sequence was brutal, man. Like that
oh,
was.
I'm
Ooh.
really I'm really happy with how it turned out too, uh, because it was a gamble. It was described in the script as something different, more
Yeah.
like blurry edges, more traditionally dream sequence as you would have seen on a movie.
Hmm.
And I said, no, let's just try something else. Let's make it clear that this is not reality, but let's try
Yeah.
a different style.
No,
Uh,
y'all nailed that sequence, man. That was, like I said, that was a very brutal scene. Like it's like your worst nightmare. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to give nothing away, but damn,
yeah.
that
And
was.
there's a
Was that your first time doing a scene like that? Because that was a very violent, very
I
traumatic scene.
I think, yeah, with that level of violence, yeah. I've always wanted to do something that was that horrifying. I come close to that in one short comic I got to draw for a friend of mine, but this felt more like a gut punch than that one.
I mean that one dream is really kind of what put Roman where he is.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a sequence coming in the issue zero that I'm going to be working on a few weeks that I'm really hyped about. And it's a different feel. It's not the same. It's not as brutal, but eerie and it's creepy and it's got that
Yeah.
cosmic horror film feel to it that I'm really, really hopeful that I can pull off. I want to do something great.
I'm excited to see it. I knew y'all were going to do the first two stories, and then you were going to give us a prequel.
We're
And then
going to
before
start
you,
jumping. We're going to start
yeah,
jumping between prequel and sort of sequel, let's call it.
yeah,
Back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be a challenge, and I'm really excited because it's a different approach. Like
it
it's
is. And
going
I
to be
know,
filmed on both directions. That's
I know. Speaking of that, like it's really weird that we're talking about that because Ani Press just released the sixth gun last week, and
yeah,
it was an issue 0 because the first one was done 15 years ago, and then now they released the issue 0, which is 3 stories related to the first one, but
nice.
it's also going to lead you into the new one that's coming this summer because the new sixth gun is going to be reborn over the summer, and I love the artist that they got, and the writer is fantastic. I'm really excited about that one. And but I always appreciate an issue 0 or
Yeah,
like something like that, because there's some stories out there where you're like, damn, I kind of wish they would go back and give me like an issue 0. So I kind of, because sometimes a issue 1 just picks up right into it, and you're
yeah,
like, well, I don't know what's going on. Like, how did we get to this point though? And
right.
every now and then you'll get into a later issue and they'll give you a little bit of a backstory that led to that event.
Right.
But I do appreciate it, issue 0. And I know you have a whole story, you and Nick, of like prequel stories that are going to kind
Yeah.
of like feed up into everything. And then that to me is really cool that y'all are doing that. It's risky, it's different. And I'm excited for that because
I'm
it is
excited.
different.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how Nick handles it because it's challenging building
Mm-hmm.
up that because you may end up spoiling stuff on the sequel
Yeah.
issues that you want to set up first on the prequel issues. It's
You
challenging.
could
I'm looking
spoil
forward-
it, or you could build that up to be
Yeah,
like one of
that's
those
the idea.
aha moments, you know?
Yeah,
And if
that's
you
the
can
idea.
get that like oh shit moment from a
Yeah,
prequel that happens like 3 or 4 issues like further down the road,
exactly.
then you've done the job the right way, and you're like, oh damn,
That's sort of the idea. That's what we
yeah.
want
No,
to accomplish.
if he pulls that off like the correct way, that's going to be phenomenal because you don't ever see stuff like that.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out, and it's exciting because it allows us to try different things, go into sort of slightly different genres
Hmm.
within the same lore. So,
Yeah.
like I said, issue series more is Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Lovecraft meets a little bit of cyberpunk, and it's a far cry from issue 1 or issue 2, which are deeply rooted into the cyberpunk
Yeah.
genre, right? So
Yeah,
you
it's
wouldn't
going to
imagine
be.
that sort of thing going on there.
No, I'm excited to see it come to life, man, and to read it. So it's going to be a good one. So let me ask you this. I know you said you did your very first book for free, basically, your very first
Yeah.
artwork. You're living at home with your mom and dad, and you just did it to get yourself out there. What would you tell any other aspiring artist or writer or whatever who wants to work in comic book or illustration? Like what kind of advice would you give to them?
I think it's key to draw comic books. It's key to read a lot of comic books and read them sort of paying attention to the artwork because you usually go from speech bubble to speech bubble and you don't pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
So actually pay attention to how the narration works. And definitely try to make your own comics or books or reach out to someone who wants to make a comic book and draw it for
Hmm.
them. Even if it's for free, that works as well. because you get to learn so much by drawing a comic book.
Yeah,
Uh,
and if it's a good, positive, like working relationship with the writer and you're doing his art, he's going to give you that good feedback that you need to kind of
exactly.
like refine, like,
Yeah.
hey, in this one section here, I'm thinking more of this.
Yeah.
And hopefully these up and coming people who want to get into this line of work, they take that as a positive thing instead of just
Yeah.
being like very hard on, it's my artwork, how dare you,
Yeah.
not.
That's also, I think that thing is
You have to swallow
you
your
have
pride a little
to
bit.
you have to be humble about it. You have to be open to criticism
Yeah.
whenever it's constructive, and you can. I mean, you may agree with it or not. Whichever you think is useful, you pick up. Whichever you don't get angry about it. If it comes from a place of being constructive,
Mhm.
it's valid. If it's
Yeah,
not an
no,
attack, don't take it
yeah.
as an attack, right? And definitely getting to learn a bit about film language also helps.
Mhm.
There's something about film language, camera placement, film editing that is also very very helpful for comic book drawing.
Yeah. And I will say right now, like, because y'all are taking a book and taking chapters and making it into a comic book, which is difficult in itself
Yeah,
because you have to be very selective. You only get so many pages, so many
yeah,
words can go on a page, and a chapter from a book can be
as long
8,
as you
10,
want.
12 pages, in a well-rounded book. I've seen some where the chapters were 30, 40 pages, and you're
Yeah.
like, I'm not on the next chapter yet. Like, what's going on? Even though, like, even within that chapter, you can kind of feel the tone and the energy shift. So you're kind of like, I kind of feel like I should have had a new chapter in there somewhere. But
Right.
with comic book, you don't really get that too much unless you're doing what you are doing currently, which is taking apart a book and making it into a comic book. And I know there's a lot of limitations there in doing that. So I'm sure you and Nick like work together on that because he
Well,
may want to
yeah,
put so much on one page, but you can't get that much on one page.
yeah, exactly. When he first reached out to me, he had no experience whatsoever writing comic books, and I told him, well, this is sort of what a comic book script page looks like. These are more or less the rules of it.
Mm-hmm.
He produced a first 20-page script, and I went over it and said, okay, this you can do, this you can't.
Mm-hmm.
This we will have to split into more panels or more pages. And it's been back and forth like that ever since. And he's gotten better and better and more efficient and more effective with,
Yeah.
with each passing script. To the point where issue 0, it was like, this is I have no comments, no notes whatsoever.
Yeah. Good.
The
That's awesome.
questions I have are for references or lore stuff, but not the storytelling aspect of it.
Yeah. No, that's really cool that it's kind of like a learn on the fly thing. And
Yeah,
especially for if you're out there, like you have this idea and then it's translating your idea to pages, or if you wrote a story and it's like, well, I want to make my story into a comic book.
hmm
You got to understand that you're going to lose some of your story.
yeah, yeah. He's
That's
been
just how it is.
yeah he's been very. I think he's been very understanding of that, and he's also been very welcoming of the stuff that sort of is introduced into the story by me or by Chandra and by all of us who have been a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
the visual aspect of it, because we end up introducing stuff like I said, like the helmet. It wasn't defined on the book. The book doesn't go into huge detail about what the armor looks like or what the helmet looks like. and that was something that was introduced through the artwork, through the visual medium.
Yeah.
So not being overly zealous or overly precious about the source material was something that was very um, that was I was very happy that Nick uh, had that approach to it, right? Like he
Yeah, I
was
mean, it
very
still
open.
feels like the book, though. You know, it doesn't like when you open the comic book, you still feel the book. It's not like you're completely rewriting everything. The story is still there from the book.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to as best as I could to sort of translate the feel and the vibe of the book.
Mhm.
I haven't read the whole thing. I started it, and at some point it was like, no, you know what? I don't want to spoil it for myself. I want
Yeah,
to to write the story along with the reader in some sense. Okay, a few months ahead of them, but sort of see what sticks, what doesn't,
yeah.
what's more impactful, what isn't.
That's
For me,
that's a smart approach to it.
it's an approach. I may be shooting myself in the foot for for the next few issues, but for these first few ones, I think it's felt more fresh working
Hmm.
this. Uh,
Yeah,
and it's crazy because the first few pages of Vitalerium of the actual novel, there's this prologue, and in and of itself, the story there could be a huge series of novels in and of itself, and it's
hmm,
just a prologue, right?
yep.
Um, so yeah, when I read that, I was like, I don't know, I don't want to know much more. I want to be surprised and let that excitement show in the artwork.
No, I mean everybody wants to take their own approach. I'm like I said, I'm still reading the book about a chapter, two chapters at a time when I can squeeze it in between things. So, and it's one of those where I'll read the book, but I like the comic book because I'm very much a visual person,
Yeah, yeah,
and I'm one of those guys when I read a comic book, I read the page, and then I also look at the art of the page as well as
yeah,
it's like I'm reading the same page multiple times because if you look at it long enough, you're going to notice something that you didn't see before.
right.
You're going to notice a little detail, or you know, one of the people working on the book, they put a signature on this poster over here on the wall that you didn't really pay attention to. You know, Easter eggs and that kind of stuff. And I always think it's cool when you go back and look at a book that you particularly like and
Yeah,
you start finding like little details within the page that you didn't see before. So I'm that guy who it takes 5 minutes to read a comic book, but I'm staring at this thing for 30
yeah,
or 45 minutes because I'm literally looking at the art. I'm looking at you know how does the art and the lettering and all this stuff, how does it all look together, and how was it rushed? And you can kind of tell sometimes
you
if they
can
kind
tell.
of
Yeah,
rushed it a
you
little
can.
bit.
Yeah,
And were they on their like they were already late? They've already missed their deadline. They're just trying to wrap this up, and you can tell because the comic book in the beginning it's like a masterpiece, but then as it kind of goes along, you're kind of like, man, they kind of got sloppy there at the end, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. It's happened with me for with a few books, but the opposite has also happened. Like to this day, I still every now and then I pick up like say Watchmen and I go through it and I keep finding Easter eggs in it,
Dude,
stuff
Watchmen
that
is that's a fantastic
that's a
series.
fantastic example of how things are set up from the very beginning, even in the artwork, the page
Yeah,
composition, everything. That's what I mean when I say if you are an aspiring artist, you have to read comics conscientiously, paying attention to it and paying
yep.
attention to the not just to the anatomy or the perspective or whatever, but to the page design, to the
Yeah.
with choices that are taken, where to add backgrounds, where not to, where that stuff.
I always like to reference back to older Hellblazer comic books, older
Yeah,
Swamp Thing comic books, because they did such a good job in that era of
yeah,
details. Whether they everything is there for a reason, and I think when I was talking to Dan Carruthers last week or the week prior, and we were discussing how George Lucas, when he builds something, nothing is there just because. Everything is something
yeah,
within Star Wars,
yeah,
whether it's happening in the background or if it's happening right in front of your face. You probably are going to miss a detail, and that detail is going to circle back, whether it be in the same issue or the same movie, or it could come back in like 2 or 3 issues, and then maybe your eye will catch it. And then
yeah,
you're like, wait, I seen that in issue 1. And now you got yourself going back to issue 1, and you're like paying more attention, going, there it is right there. And then you're
right,
looking at issue 4 going, it's right there. This is going to play something later on down
yeah,
the road, because it's not going to just show up for no reason. Everything is there for purpose.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
And I think that era of comic book, especially with DC Vertigo,
Yeah, DC Vertigo was above and beyond much of
dude.
what was being done back then.
And I'm so glad that they brought Vertigo back. Vertigo is
Yeah,
back.
it
They're
was.
relaunching.
I remember when they announced that they were closing. Yeah, so closing Vertigo, and they sort of stopped publishing Hellblazer. I think they reached issue
Yeah, they just
200. I was like, why? This is going well. This is a huge. It's above and beyond the quality of everything else on the market.
yeah, and it's
also
gritty.
image sort
It's
of
very gritty, and I like those type of comic books where they're gritty, they're down and dirty. And Constantine and the Vertigo, Hellblazer, Swamp Thing,
yeah,
Justice League Dark, they have that grittiness to them, and
yeah,
I've always appreciated and liked that in comic books.
yeah,
That's why I'm such a big fan of like indie comic books.
yeah. I
Because they
think
feel gritty and they feel dirty, and
we're not limited by trying to hit the 4 quadrants as you will. They're not trying to please everyone and your grandma with the stories. They want to tell a story. Like some people like it, okay. Some people don't. That's okay too.
Yep. And that's what I like about Marvel now is they have the red band editions, where they do that. It's a more of a gritty story. It's more like, I know if that dude got stabbed, he's supposed to bleed.
Exactly.
And in the red band, guess what? You're going to get the F words, you're going to get the blood, the guts. If somebody's getting the shit beat out of them, it's going to look like they got the shit beat out of them.
And that's also what I always liked of especially the newer era of Image Comics.
I love Image. That's hands down.
That Vertigo feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
To be bold, to be different, to do stuff that's sort of out of the genre stipulations.
Yep.
I really enjoyed many of their books the past few years. They're bold.
I will always
everything.
I will always be a fan of Image. There's been a couple of other publishers I've really noticed over the last maybe year, like Ani Press.
Oh yeah,
I love their work. They do some of the best horror comic books out there.
Yeah. I've read some of them. I think that I read something Warren Ellis wrote, Super Gods or something like that. I think that was on Oni Press, and it was cosmic horror done well.
They are very good at what they do, and I follow their one of their editors is on Blue Sky, and the guy who runs the show is on Blue Sky. And if you shout them out, they're like, "Hey man, we appreciate you, liking the stuff." And they do a lot of fun stuff too. Don't get me wrong. They have some very cartoonish books as well, but they do horror right. And I will always appreciate a good horror comic book.
Yeah,
Epitaphs from the Abyss is
I have to check that.
a fantastic series. Like it's like every issue is like 3 stories, and they have different writers, different artists, all collab on these projects, and it's such a fantastic series.
Yeah, I have that one on my list because it just the covers alone,
And yeah,
or
they always like they have that
even
old school feel to them.
yeah,
You know?
like a creep show or a sort of
Yes,
feel to them.
yes. Like, and I love Creepshow. Creepshow is one of my favorite comic books of all time, and I will always like. They do one shots here and there. They just wrapped up a full run of Creepshow not that long ago,
Yeah,
and I will always appreciate like a good gritty horror book, you know. And like I
yeah,
said, Ani Press I think is probably one of the better ones out there doing it right now.
yeah. And there was this book that I think is still coming out, uh, where Garth Ennis wrote a short story that was an episode per per issue. It was also an anthology book.
Mhm. I love
Um,
a good anthology.
yeah,
Boom Studios has Hello Darkness, which is based off of R.L.
Hello Darkness.
Stein.
Yeah, Hello
Yeah,
Darkness. Love that
dude,
one.
the
I
new
love
issue
that.
is out tomorrow. New issue tomorrow.
I'll be checking it out for
Hello
sure.
Darkness, dude.
That's
Again,
fantastic.
it was originally done by R.L. Stein, but he invites other writers, and there's all different artists that collaborate on it. And the current ones that are going on right now, like the covers, he has covers by Jenny Frism, who I absolutely love her work.
Yeah,
The way she's
spectacular artist.
the way she does like colors, and it's like
They're so soft and so
they're
delicate.
very soft, and like a feminine face is very feminine with her.
Yeah,
Like, and it's just, dude, she's phenomenal. And she also like all her covers she's done for Something Is Killing the Children.
yeah.
Phenomenal stuff,
Tinian makes some really great horror
dude.
books. And they are
Uh,
very character driven. That's what I love
so
them.
and the fact that he just started Tiny Onion, his
Yeah,
own company, is that much better.
yeah,
And I've always like ever since I learned who he was with Something Is Killing the Children and House of Slaughter, I've gone back and bought some of his other books, his older stuff as well. And he's so talented. He's got so much going on. World Tree is really good.
Department of Truth is one of my
Department of Truth. Oh, dude,
favorites.
I got it
That one,
signed. I got a
I'm very
signed
much
Department of Truth.
I'm very much a fan of Jonathan Hickman, and
Yes.
I was sort of, do you remember the Black Monday Murders? That one
Yeah.
sort of that book sort of stopped. I think the artist had health issues and they couldn't keep making it.
Mark
And then,
Spears.
oof,
Phenomenal. That's an
Spears.
ASM homage.
Mark Spears.
Here's the one I was looking for right here, though. Michael W. Conrad, Plague House.
Plague House. All
He
right.
also does Ani Press. He does. He works with Ani Press and does Epitaphs from the Abyss and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So he's part of the team of Epitaphs of the Abyss.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think Boom is doing a fantastic job right now too with their horror lineup. And I really like Keen Spot a lot. Mad Cave is really good. Mad Cave does Pop Kill,
Yeah, I haven't read.
which is with a Jimmy Palmiotti, who's another fantastic writer.
Yeah, a legend.
Oh, dude, and it's super nice guy as well. One of the characters from Epitaphs of the Abyss is doing they basically spun her out of it, and she's getting her own series by Corinne Becco. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but she wrote a short story about a vampire in there, and it's now doing its own thing, and it comes out tomorrow as well, and it's going to be really, really dope. The real Randy Chavez, great show with Dan Carruthers. Hey, thank you. He was such a pleasure to have on, and his New Zealand accent was just. I love those accents. I mean, I know I'm Southern, but you can't tell as much anymore. But he was such a fun guy to have on, and But no, horror comics and sci-fi, like darker sci-fi, I
Yeah,
will always like. That's why I've loved Image and Boom Studios, the Keen Spot,
I
Honey
actually
Press.
horror is something I want to actually draw. I haven't had the chance to properly make collaborate with something on that in that genre. So I have something I'm working on. I have to actually sit down and write the whole thing. That
Yeah.
is deeply rooted into the anthology horror series.
Mm.
Whenever I get to make it, you will be the first to know because I
Please,
think
man,
we
you
are
come
sort
back
of in
on.
tune in that sense.
Come back on, man, and we'll talk about it. There's a book out. I think it's on. I can't remember if it's on Boom Studios or Dynamite or Dark Horse. It might be Dark Horse, but it's called Los Mostrinos, and it takes place in like 1950s, and it's about a werewolf private investigator. And Los Mostrinos is kind of like Los Angeles, but it's for monsters. It's like all
Nice.
your classic movie monsters make up this city, and it was just such a good read. Like
I had to
like
check
the
that
whole
one out.
concept was amazing. Like a werewolf private investigator investigating the disappearance of a vampire princess
So
or a
cool.
vampire heiress. I was like, dude, I love this concept. Like it is such a dope concept.
Noir and classic horror monsters. Nice.
Yeah, anything like it's and it's set
Noir
in
is
the
also
1950s.
Yeah,
Yes,
noir
it's
is
in
also
that
something
19
pretty.
Gun Honey. If you like crime noir, that's like kind of gritty and kind of like fits that pulp feel.
Yeah.
Gun Honey is really good.
Gun Honey. I'm
Yeah.
writing all this down because I got to know about so many comic books I wasn't aware of through your podcast. So I'm really
No, I appreciate that. Like
So-
that to me is like that's what I do. What I do. I'm like I'm not just presenting. Like I actually read these comic books. Like
yeah,
like there's always a box underneath my desk of what I'm currently reading, and once they're read, they kind of go to their other box. But and I could be like a week behind. Sometimes I'll get like, especially if it's like a thicker comic book, like
Yeah.
48 pages. It's like okay, and especially like I said, with the way I read,
yeah,
it's difficult sometimes. So, but no, yeah. It's like I told Nick, I'm like, hey, if you ever need a suggestion on something, just hit me up. I'm just literally a message away. There's nobody else answering my messages but me. So
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely will.
let's wrap it up, man. I don't want to eat up too much of your time. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram as FAH_draws, like drawing. I'm setting up a personal website, but that's slow progress between, working. And you can find me pretty much everywhere as Francisco Hnilo with an H at the beginning of the last name. It's a strange enough last name that I'm easy to find.
Yeah, and you actually found me like when I first announced I was going to be doing the interview with Nick, and we just kind of like started talking back and forth, and getting to have you on the show, that means a lot to me because I get to talk to both you and Nick, and I still talk to Nick. Like he wasn't just a passing like, oh, I interviewed him, it's done. No, I mean we every now and then you shoot him a message, and
Awesome.
it's really. I enjoy keeping contact with everybody. I still talk to Bruno here and there. I know he's got a new Kickstarter coming up, so hopefully he'll come back on the show and we'll talk about his new Kickstarter as well. And hopefully, dude, you're welcome back anytime, man.
I would be really, really happy to. It's been a pleasure, this whole talk. I arrived like 15, 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah, we had a whole conversation before we ever started. So it was a fun time. And you were like I told you, man, you're the first person to show up early. I thought it was really cool.
Well, it shows how excited I was about it.
We were right on the same wavelength too. I was sending you the link, and you were asking for the link at almost the same time. I was like, "Oh, you're looking for this," and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for." Because most people are expecting it to be in the invite I send them, but I do it the same day. It generates a link to the thing, and it's just easier that way. I normally send it about 15 to 20 minutes before the show starts. So before I let you go, though, tell everybody what you're watching right now. Are you watching any specific TV show, or are you reading something in particular?
Well, I'm reading a lot of comic books. I'm keeping up with a lot of comic books. Right now, I'm reading an old book named Lore, drawn by Ashley Wood, fantastic artist. And I'm watching Love, Death, and Robots every now and then, whenever I make breaks from drawing. And with my girlfriend, I'm watching you because.
Hey, that's actually really good.
Nice soap opera, thriller soap opera.
Yeah, my daughter really likes that one too. She watches that one. All right,
I'm watching that one.
All right. Nah, that's actually good. So we'll close it out right there, everybody. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Fran, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and talking about not just Vitalerium, but also everything that you have going on in your life. With that, everybody, Fran, welcome to the Council of Nerds, my friend. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
It's a trap!